Hello, and welcome to the OnCampus College Planning Podcast, where we provide insights and guidance on everything from choosing the right courses for your student to finding those niche programs and majors to understanding the complexities of financial aid. This is real college planning advice for real families because it's the University of You, not the University of Them. This is episode 10. Campus visits, Cilantro and Rodney Dangerfield, how my three big takeaways from 31 colleges in 11 days can help your family find the right colleges. I want to do a quick recap of episode 9 and then jump into these big takeaways. So on March 5th, I published released episode 9. 33 colleges plus 9 states plus 11 days equals the Great College Road Trip. And I did that in 48 hours in advance of when I took off on March 7th, right before the state-mandated ACT, done prepping all the students, etc. And by the way, we've been getting fantastic scores back from those March students. Really excited about that. And I did it for 3 reasons. I did this big college road trip to expand my knowledge base so I can help more families find their University of You colleges. And I also wanted to think more deeply about the process of visiting campuses within the larger process of applying to, and ultimately selecting the right college for your kid. And then I also wanted to just take a step back and evaluate the ways that we help families in the greater college search process. So it wasn't just about visiting these colleges. It was about the process of visiting colleges and how that fits into just the college search process in general. I had a great time. A lot of you have been asking, what did you see? What did you do? Or you've been saying, I saw your video from Villanova or wherever it might be, and hopefully you not only enjoyed that and it was entertaining to some extent, but you learned something from that as well. So I want to condense, 3 big takeaways from those 3,300 miles, 31 campus visits, and I'm going to talk about kind of big picture stuff today. And then next week, I'm going to do another podcast and send that out via the newsletter. And you can access that via YouTube and Stitcher and Spotify as well. And I want to talk about more kind of day-to-day sort of practical planning steps, give you some updated tools and ways to actually do this. Okay, so that's where I'm headed. So let me talk about the 3 big takeaways, right? Number 1, you have lots of options. Number 2, visit early and visit often. And number 3, colleges are like cilantro, but not everyone loves cilantro. Again, number 1, you have lots of options. Number 2, visit early and visit often. And number 3, colleges are like cilantro, but not everyone loves cilantro. All right, so those are interesting titles, but what do they really mean? Well, here's the first one. As I'm driving around, it's very obvious to me that there are a lot of colleges that I just don't know much about. And, I would be driving on my way from college A to college B and happen to see that, college C is just 10 miles off the road over here. And I had to really resist the temptation to just do a detour as I tried to keep myself on schedule. But there are so many colleges. Now, I was out east where things are pretty dense, okay, and compact. And yeah, there are more colleges in a short range or short distance. But even here in the Midwest, where we have to drive a ways to get to things, there are still an incredible number of options. And as I was writing these notes, at first I thought, you have options. That sounds good. But I really wanted to focus on kind of the variety. And I'm using a very non-specific term, lots, right? But I want to hit that hard. You do have lots of options. And that's regardless of your grades or your potential ACT scores or your family's wealth or your location or where you want to go to college or the major that you're going to choose. You can give me any of those as limiting factors, and I'm going to find great options for you or help you find great options if you're open to new information and to do the work to fully explore those options. In fact, the biggest limiting factor, in choosing a college isn't the academic piece. It's not monies. It's not major. It's not location. It's, frankly, your ideas about what college should be and what you think you already know about colleges, right? This is maybe where we stop being friends, but I feel like I have to be very honest. The volume of things that people don't know about colleges is far greater than what they do know. And a wise person goes into this saying, we don't know what we don't know, and we need help, or we want to be open to new experiences. And then they do look for new experiences, new perspectives, new information. Searching for the right colleges is not about just finding that major. It's not about checking boxes. Okay. It's not just about looking at sticker prices as well. You're thinking about the entire experience, the college experience. That's academics, but it's everything else that goes with that. So stop shopping for it like you are a 57-year-old man running into Target to buy socks and then get the hell out as fast as possible. That's not shopping, that's buying. And buying is great when you know exactly what you need, and you know what has worked through trial and error, and you know what the value proposition is, right? And it's a fairly low risk. But it's a terrible way to acquire something that you haven't bought in 30 years, Dad, that might have changed. It has, and that has a lot of moving parts, and it's at a much higher price than a 3-pack of socks. I know that messes up your goal of, well, let's just sit down tonight over dinner and let's sort of figure out this college thing. And it doesn't mesh well with the idea of, well, that college was good enough for me, so it's good enough for my kids either. And so if I'm creating some stress or anxiety, I'm not apologizing for that. I want you to think more deeply about this. Shopping doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay more when you're looking for colleges. This idea of shopping could just mean that you're finding a hell of a deal in a cool location. How about one of my favorites, Delta State in Cleveland, Mississippi? Yeah, Cleveland, Mississippi. It's about 2 hours south of Memphis, right? I love the South. I love Memphis. I love that whole area down there. And I toured that this fall on part of a big colleges and barbecue trip with a friend. And oh, by the way, if you've been paying attention to things besides one person punching another person at the Oscars, you probably heard about Delta State because Shaq and Steph Curry were executive producers from a documentary that sounds great, The Queen of Basketball, about a former Delta State female athlete. It won the Academy Award for short subject documentary this past week. And Delta State is, imagine a UW La Crosse or a UW Platteville, put it in the Delta. That changes some things. And imagine great Division II sports teams with scholarships. Imagine a wide range of academic options and majors and some very specialized programs. Imagine warm weather year round. Imagine amazing food. And it's in a really cool, hip little town with a thriving music scene. So that's just one, and I don't want to get off track, but there are a lot of options out there, but you gotta look for them, and you have to be open to some new ideas. Look, it's pretty simple math. The greater set of viable options that you create, the more likely your final choice is going to be a winner. When you put all of your eggs in one basket at, age 7 or 10 or something like that, you create a situation in which there's only one possible good outcome, and everything else means settling for less. And I'm not going to name the university that's nearby, but I have a lot of families that tell me it was always going to be that one, and now they're disappointed because they didn't get in, and they can't figure out how they didn't get in, and everybody's crabby about that. Well, you know what? If you don't just focus on one, you're going to find a lot of great options. And they're, they might be farther away, they might be nearby. In fact, some of the colleges that I toured, the very first one I got to was Oberlin College in Oberlin, Ohio, which is famous as being a great liberal arts college with a music conservatory, a professional music school. Now, there are some of those actually in the Midwest, and Oberlin's in the Midwest too, but it's almost to Cleveland. It's a different part of the Midwest than I live anyways, and depending on and where you're at listening to this. But, there are conservatories with liberal arts schools closer to Madison, Wisconsin. Wheaton College in Wheaton, Illinois has one. How about Lawrence University up in Appleton? All right. So that same model that's kind of unique. It's extremely unique. There's a couple within a few hours here. And I spend a lot of time at technical universities that really focus on STEM majors. I was at, the whole alphabet soup, RIT, RPI, WPI, I didn't go to MIT, but I've been there before. And there are places like MSOE, Milwaukee School of Engineering, that's right in our own backyard, and places like Michigan Tech and Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. So if you're really open, there are those specialized, unique colleges and all sorts of things close by. You have lots of options if you keep your eyes open and you do a little bit of homework or ask somebody that does know about this. Number two, visit early and visit often. For you history buffs, that's a sort of a play on the, I don't know, the old Chicago thing about voting early and voting often. And I'm not going to get into political debates about voting practices or whatever. But the point is that you need to get out there a lot, and you probably need to do it sooner than you imagined. The campus visit, it's the most powerful tool in your search for the right colleges, but it's also the most underused, overlooked, and misunderstood portion of this process. It's the Rodney Dangerfield of choosing a college. It gets no respect, right? And the things that I love about visiting are surprises and ownership. Let me explain these. No matter how prepared I am, and I do my homework, folks. I mean, talk to my wife, talk to my kids. I've been planning this trip for a long time. I spent a lot of hours building spreadsheets, mapping out things so I knew exactly where I was going to go, exactly what I was going to see, all of that. But no matter how prepared I am, I'm always amazed and surprised, and it's always different than what I expected. Sometimes in a negative way, but almost always in a very positive light. I almost always come away thinking, wow, that's not quite what I expected. Even when I've done all my homework and memorized a map of the surrounding area and done all of those things. Things are just different when you experience them in person. Not because I'm wrong, but because all I had really was an assumption, and now I have ownership. Okay, and ownership to me means I get that place. I know what it's like there, and I'm sipping coffee late afternoon in my Cornell Big Red Bear mug. There you go. I didn't buy many trinkets. I bought one sweatshirt and one coffee mug and a whole bunch of college pennants, obviously. Um, but I'm just thinking right now about the time I spent on that campus. I was there probably an hour and a half or so, started at one end, went to the other, and it varies greatly. And I can describe that for you. I can kind of close my eyes again. I can tell you what the light was like. I can tell you what it was like to stand on the west edge of that campus among the more kind of historical buildings there and gaze out to the, let's see, to the west across this valley and these hills over into the mountains there. And it's just gorgeous. And I can tell you what it's like to walk along the busy street next to Boston University and how it doesn't even feel like a campus. And I knew those things, right? I knew those things intellectually, but now I know them on a more emotional level. And I get that. I know what it's like to walk from there over to Northeastern, etc., and to walk around in that Back Bay neighborhood. That idea of ownership is, yeah, I get that place. I know what it's like. For me, as a college planner, it's incredibly valuable because if we go back to the last podcast, I had just met with a family and a young man that I named Wayne because that guards his identity. No one under 40 is named Wayne. And I just presented a list of 10 or 11 colleges to Wayne. And that University of Wayne had 6 colleges that I know really well and I know a lot about, and I've visited there in some cases multiple times. But two of the ones that I hadn't visited were on my list, and it was Cornell actually and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute (RPI). And so I was really excited because I said, Wayne, man, I'm going to see these in about a week. And when I get back, we're going to talk about it, et cetera. Because he hadn't been there. He hadn't even heard of RPI. And, oh, by the way, about a week after I was there, another one of my students visited those same 2 schools, plus others that I had just been to visit. And I'm going to get to that student in just a second when we talk about cilantro. So I own this information. I get what it's like, and you can really experience things firsthand, and that is incredibly valuable, right? Stop waiting to visit until you have it all figured out. Okay? The goal isn't to use campus visits to, make your final decision necessarily. It's to help you figure it out now and explore. This is an extended shopping trip. I'm almost kicking myself thinking, why did I wait so long to go visit these schools? Some of these are schools that I've put on a lot of students' lists as possible, choices, and I knew enough about them to say with professional honesty that yeah, this might be a good fit. But now I can talk about them on just a much more comprehensive and level, and with a deeper understanding of not just that campus, but that place, how to get there, etc. You know what? I'm just back, and the car needs an oil change, and I need to save up some more frequent flyer miles to book hotels, etc. But I'm already planning this next year, and one of the places I really want to visit, I want to go into Michigan. I was going to do it this last fall. I decided not to. I want to see Michigan. I want to see Michigan State. I want to see Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan. I want to see Kalamazoo College. I really wanted to see that. I know a student that is there right now, and that's a pretty easy trip for me to make. But I also want to do another big trip. Now, I just did California over Christmas break, kind of tacking it on to a family vacation, and I just did this big swing out through the East. But I want to get either down into Texas or into the Pacific Northwest, one or the other. And Jiminy, I just mentioned Michigan Tech a few minutes ago. I still haven't been up there. I've barely been in the UP. And that's an incredible option for mechanical engineers, STEM-focused majors. There's no reason I can't just run up there one day and stay overnight and drive back as well. Folks, if you're cutting this part short, the campus visit piece, you are missing out. And everybody gets to do what they want to do, right? This is America. But in my professional opinion, most families treat campus visits with a lack of respect. They miss the boat. You're so busy with work and sports, you can't take a couple of days to visit someplace you might be for 4 years. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Visiting earlier can bring so many benefits. I've just met with 4 sophomores this week, and in all of those meetings, I really encourage them to go visit soon. And those wonderful families, we had great conversations, but I can even see in the parents' eyes a little bit of like, yeah, well, maybe next fall. And no, not next fall. Now, do you have a day off, or can you possibly take a day off from, I don't know, the middle of May when things are a little bit slow? Take a day off, even go tour something, you can drive there in a day. Just get used to it and get used to touring a campus. And I'll talk more about that in the next podcast as well. So we're just done with spring break, but if you're thinking long term, I really want you to make some time then, and there are other times as well, to start planning this out and start putting into perspective. I know your kids have soccer tryouts, but maybe your kid would have made the team anyway, and maybe you should go visit some colleges. So we'll get to that. All right, number 3, colleges are like cilantro, but not everyone loves cilantro. So I don't know when cilantro became a thing, right? But it's one of those things that a lot of people love, and you kind of think about, well, why didn't I know about this before? If we have cilantro, we usually have some in the little vegetable drawer. If I go home and I make a burrito, or I make some tacos with leftovers or whatever it might be, if I forget to put the cilantro in there, I get mad at myself, and I sort of have some revenge tacos within 24 hours because I want to use that cilantro because it makes everything so good, right? And I love that flavor, but some people have this, I don't know if it's a gene or whatever, but it really tastes bad to them. I've heard it described as tasting like soap. Don't put soap on my tacos, right? So my point is that impressions, right, and our background story and a lot of things go into this process of visiting colleges and choosing colleges. And as a college planner, I can list 10 reasons why Cornell is a perfect fit for Johnny, and Johnny can go there and he can hate it. And maybe it's because he broke up with his girlfriend or boyfriend, or maybe it's because he had a bad day, or maybe something about it just doesn't appeal to him, and maybe I kind of missed the mark. But you can't force these things, and you have to at least respect things like first impressions and just subjective impressions for this whole thing. And the only thing I asked is when I'm working with a family going through the college search process, and they visit a college, or even if they just do the research to, here's your college list, and then I have them work on that for about a month or so, and then they come back and they let me know what they liked, what they didn't, what questions they have, what work we need to do. If somebody comes back and they say, I don't like this college, all I need to know is why. And if you can't come up with a good reason, I think you need to kind of revisit it, right? If you can say, I think it's to this or to that or whatever, and you can make a combination of a subjective and an objective analysis or decision on that, that's fine. So we don't want to put all our eggs into those first impressions. Oh, I could just see myself there, but I want to honor those. And the student that was going to go to Cornell and RPI, they sent me notes. I'm going to be meeting with that student next week, and we're going to talk about all these things. And it's going to be really fun because we're going to have, firsthand experience, but we're going to compare notes on what a 17-year-old really bright student saw and what a 57-year-old white man saw. And those are going to be different things. And that person evidently doesn't have some of the same flavor preferences because that person didn't like one of the schools that I absolutely loved. And I'm not going to try to trick him into liking it. I'm just going to try to learn more about why he didn't like it and how I can adjust his list and help him find the colleges that are perfect for him. You know what? The things that matter to you for a reason. When I went around onto these college campuses, and you can see it if you watch some of the videos, um, I'm really drawn to traditional collegiate Gothic architecture because it just like drips with tradition, and it makes me think of sitting somewhere reading a book, not a Kindle, a book, and thinking deep thoughts. And that stuff matters to me, but that may not matter to you. And you've got to figure out what matters to you and why. So just a couple of final remarks. Let me go through the list one more time again. So the three big takeaways. Number one, you have lots of options, really hitting that, lots of options, but it's going to take you a little bit of work and time to find those. Number two, visit early and visit often. And then the third one, colleges are like cilantro, but not everyone loves cilantro. So kind of honoring that personal interpretation. A few final remarks, and it became very, very obvious that even though I was by myself for most of this, Hillary joined me. I picked her up at the airport in Baltimore. We spent a couple days there, a day down in Annapolis, a couple days up in Philly, and then she flew back, and I had another 1,000 miles or so to go and 10 more campuses. But it felt like a family trip, right? And every family vacation or family trip that we've ever taken, you do lots of planning and you map out where the fun places to eat are and where's the second largest ball of twine and all of those kinds of great things. But when it comes the day of, it's always a little bit different than what you imagined, right? And that's part of the good thing. That's what I talked about in those surprises at campuses, and then kind of understanding what it's really like. I left at 4 a.m. on Monday, March 7th, and we have underground parking, and I hit the button there, and I open it up, and it's dark, which I expected, and there are about 2 inches of snow, which I didn't expect. Well, it's March, Tom, and you live in Wisconsin, so don't be so surprised. And I hadn't even thought to check the weather. Now, it didn't slow me down. It was fine, but just another example of it's not just being at these campuses, it's all of the time and space in between and all of the things that go with that. And probably the thing that I want to talk the most about in terms of a campus visit being like a family trip is everybody has their expectations and everybody has some kind of an agenda. And probably the trip from my own experience that really hits home with this, where I, as a father, and I'm not giving parental advice here, I'm giving college planning advice as a parent. What hit home for me was when Jack toured Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Murfreesboro. Sounds like there's an extra R. So, and Joe was along for the ride. And we had stayed in Nashville the night before, and we had a great time. And then it's like 45 minutes. You drive down to Murfreesboro. It's an easy drive. And this is the fall of his senior year. He's already been accepted there, and he's been accepted at Memphis and a handful of other places too. And so we're going to go see Middle Tennessee and Memphis. And I think it's going to be Middle Tennessee. And I'm pretty jacked up about this. Fantastic music, entertainment, business program. We're going to meet with the honors college people. Really excited about this. And Jack's 17, and so the minute we get in the car, he goes to sleep. Right, and it's in the morning, and he's just not a morning person, and he sleeps all the way until we literally park. And I'm excited driving. I get off the interstate, and you're driving past all the strip malls and all the Chili's and things like that on the way to the campus, and I'm just like shaking with so much excitement because I'm projecting what's going to happen. We'll fly into Nashville and rent a car, and we'll drive down here, and we'll take him out, etc. And I'm looking for good places to go out to dinner and all of that, and kind of nudging him. And he just wants to sleep because he doesn't see the point of thinking about those things the way that I think about those things. And he slept, like I said, until we were parked, and then woke up. And I had to really remind myself that this wasn't about me. This was about him, and him making good choices. And I even go back to the mental picture and the physical picture I have of when he went on his first campus visit with me as a freshman, and it was at Xavier, right? Go Musketeers. And I purposely sort of hung towards the back of like 10, 12 parents and students. And I waited for the group to walk ahead for a few seconds. And then I snapped a picture of him, literally 10 feet into his first campus tour, and all of this parental stuff. And oh my gosh, it's scary. It's hard not to get emotional thinking about all of the trips that we've made to explore colleges. I wouldn't trade any of those, regardless of he didn't go to Xavier, he didn't go to Middle Tennessee State. I wouldn't trade any of those experiences. And I hope you understand that, yeah, family trips can turn out poorly. I'm thinking of National Lampoon's Vacation, but this is just one more step along the way. This is like taking them to overnight summer camp, or going out of town and having your kids stay with relatives, right? This is one more step along that process. And it is a family trip, and there are a lot of emotions that go with that. So hope that made sense. And again, I'm not giving parental advice. I'm a college planner who is a parent giving professional advice. I loved what I saw. And if you stop me on the streets, or you come in for a free consult or something, and you ask me, I'll go off for about 15 minutes on different colleges. I'll talk to you about Cornell and how it was sort of hard for me not to think about Andy Bernard from The Office while I was there, which is a really stupid thing to think about. Upstate New York was beautiful, and it was hilly. Oh my God, my calves got a workout. There were just so many interesting towns and places. I can't wait to go back again. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back and go to our Facebook page, OnCampusCollegePlanning.com. Like us, share it if you feel called to do so. Go back and watch some of my videos. I tried to do a real quick snapshot. I did this about a dozen times or so, of like, here's the college, and then like, hey, here's a pro tip for visiting colleges. And I need to compile those. I'll try to do that in time for the next podcast. But go back and watch some of those, and I think you'll be interested in some of the things that I have to say. And then this is a great time. Spring is a great time to plan. Okay. It's a great time to plan. And I would love for you to call, text, email me with your questions, or better yet, set an appointment from our Facebook page or our homepage. Go to OnCampusCollegePlanning.com, book a free consult. You can do it via Zoom if you want, but I'd really love to meet with you in person if you're comfortable with that. Had a bunch of those this week with sophomores, and that's fantastic because we've really been able to talk about some really productive, healthy, solid steps for figuring out the next couple of years and beyond, and to get everyone hopefully on the same page about like, there are a lot of great options. Here's what I need to do, and here's how I can find those many University of You colleges. It's not just about one, right? All right. That's been the On-Campus College Planning Podcast. This is episode 10. I am Tom, your college planner, campus visit tour guide, and parent giving college planning advice. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.